support was so good. Now I really appreciate
I'm open.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good night. Let's chat again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cracking.
All right.
All right. So I got my guy. I was so excited to do this the last time after having been off since before the season that I actually forgot to hit record. Luckily, my guy was willing to do this again. We had a really good conversation the last time. Back to try this again. I got my man Lonnie Jones, head coach of Lincoln High School. One of the most storied coaches, boys or girls, high school or club that this county has seen. 3-time CIF winner at 3 different schools. So again, good to catch up with you again. And I always like to start the same way. Let's go back to where the journey began for you. When did you first fall in love with this game?
Fell in love back when I was in high school, honestly, like a couple years before high school. Well, first off, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. And thanks for the bomb introduction, man. I really appreciate that, man. It's humbling. Again, my love for the hoops started back a long time ago. More like middle school time, roughly. Playing at the County Rec Center. Big kid in the community. Didn't take sports up until 6th grade, and baseball was first. Just fell in love with basketball, honestly. You don't need nobody to play, man. One ball, one hoop. You can do what you want. A guy show up, it's 1-on-1. 2 show up, you're playing 21. So it's a great game, man. Beautiful game.
And when you first started playing, I know we talked before, you played a lot of other sports too. Was the baseball, football, which was your first love?
Oh, my first love was baseball, because it was the first sport that I truly played where it didn't matter about my size. I've always been a big man, big kid growing up. So you know how that goes. Everybody who say they're a coach, they put the biggest person either on the block in basketball, on the line in football, right? Or baseball, they put you at first base. Yeah, so, shout out to the coaches that just look at size and don't look at ability. It was baseball. And then, I fell in love with playing basketball and all my sports. I got a lot better. I remember it was a mom. I was playing for Encounter Rec Center basketball, the PAL League, the Police Athletic League back then. And I was killing this team in the post. And I'll never forget what this mom said. She said, "It's okay, baby. He's just bigger than you." And that really, it hurt. It was factual. She wasn't lying. But it hurt in the sense of I felt I was better than that. And I'm tired of people looking at my size. They look at me, they think that I'm already an intimidating person, and I'm a teddy bear at the end of the day. From that day on, I was at the rec center every day learning on my own, dribbling, shooting, passing, working on guard skills. And then in baseball, I started working on hitting for average. I was, watching great players like Tony Gwynn play and Robin Yount, guys like that, and trying to learn what they did well. So in baseball, my goal was to never hit a home run. I always wanted to hit the ball 10 feet, 15 feet off the ground and hit shots everywhere. Football, I didn't want to be just an offensive lineman. I wanted to go to defensive line. I wanted to prove that I was faster. I could play fullback. I could play linebacker. So again, my whole thing was to silence the person that would always have that excuse where it's okay, he's just bigger. So that was my thing on it.
When you got to high school, what did you play in high school?
Oh, freshman year, I messed around with football. I played basketball still at the rec center because we had a really good little AAU team back then. And Lincoln, honestly, man, they were just so loaded. I messed around with wrestling that year and baseball.
So the first 2 sports you played in high school were wrestling and football. When did you play basketball?
Mm-hmm. High school basketball, I didn't do it until my junior year. Again, my first couple years, I really just stayed with the rec center. I honestly didn't feel I was ready for that level either, to be honest. Like I said, Lincoln was unreal. It was just so much talent. I mean, I'll give you an example. My freshman year, the varsity basketball team had the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft, Akili Smith. He got scholarship in 3 different sports and drafted pro in 2 different sports. You had Chester Magnum, 6'8". You had Archie Robinson, that was just the phenom point guard. Pookie Johnson, Terrell Cade, who was 6'4", played football at the University of Colorado. I mean, the JV team, I believe they were undefeated. Them dudes was Derek Davis, Ken Nutter. I believe Nutter was on that team. But that team right there was hands down could have been on a varsity team anywhere in this county, the entire team. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I knew my ability, and I wasn't ready at that time.
Nowadays, if a kid thinks they can play and they're not on varsity as a freshman, they're transferring, right? But back, like I said, in our day, we took pride in our JV team and everybody, trying to win every game. And I don't think that's there no more because, like I said, if you're not happy in your situation, just like club, you had to be elite to play AAU. I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't play AAU. I wasn't elite. But nowadays, I always say if you don't make the team, your daddy can start his own. And again, I'm not trying to be negative, but I think that just changes kind of how expectations are when it comes to parents and players because they can get on a club team. Mm-hmm. It kind of jades their perception of kind of how good the kid is. How do you feel about that? What do you mean? What do you think?
I agree with you, and I don't think you're saying anything negative at all. You're speaking facts. This generation, and it's fallen off big time, where competition is not preached and it's not valued. It's instead of competing, it's let's just go over here, and it's a bunch of excuse making. And the sad part is that's creating bad people in the workforce. Because once you learn that habit of I'm not going to compete, I'm just going to go over here, you're making nothing but lateral moves in life. You're never going forward. So this generation is totally set up for failure, and it's the generation of maybe that guy that didn't make it as a coach, but now they got a little bit of coin, or they convince some kids, I'm gonna start an AU team company for me. Look at me, I'm the coach, I'm that guy, or I'm that woman. I'm not going to be sexist. There's some women club coaches out here that's like that as well, and it's killing the game. The purity of the game, the purity of being a child, is leaving, and it's leaving at a rapid rate. I mean, again, in ninth grade, there was one team that I wanted to play for. And it was the only ninth grade team in our county was the Stockton Knights down we call it the coast. If you're from Dago, you know what I'm talking about. It's all Crip neighborhood, Stockton Rec Center, Stockton Knights. Ollie Golston started that program before he was even at Hoover. I mean, they had all the different jerseys. They had the socks. Every time you took a charge, he gave you a pair of socks. They had Stockton on it or Knights on it. And they were just so classy. And I honestly wanted to play for them before I got a Lincoln jersey, and that team was every year was like freshmen. So, I missed their tryouts, and this one cat, Boogie, took me over to Coach Ollie and was like, yo, this first time I met Coach Ollie, who I ended up coaching with my first high school job. And one thing I learned about Coach Ollie, he kept it 100. He's like, sorry, he missed tryouts. This is our team. I got this many jerseys. I'm not going to get rid of somebody because he missed tryouts. Try again. I said, well, I can. I'll be a sophomore next year. And he was like, well, I wish you good luck in your high school career. And, that's tight. Nowadays guys will be like, in my situation, will be crying up a river and like, yo, or crying, how the term goes, crying a river or whatever. And basically they'll whine. Some adult will come into play, parent, uncle, somebody. Well, let's just go do this. And again, it's such a concentrated talent pool. Like this is all the talent that it used to be. And now because everybody's starting teams, you're losing it. And it's everywhere. And that's where I feel like the county is right now is, San Diego as a whole. And honestly, really, I'm not going to talk about other places because this is where I live and this is what I see. But San Diego, that's what it is. And it's not good. And people don't compete no more. When when there was a select number of club teams, you played the best of the best. And that's how it went down. And that's how everybody got a lot better. That's how way more Division I colleges were around and way more kids were going. The more talented kids were getting better, faster, getting seen. And it's just not happening that way no more. It's not at all.
You touched on it a little bit, but what was like, I've always heard your story. Tell me about the vibe, the environment in those games, in that era, playing when you were at Lincoln. Like, what was the environment like in those gyms back then?
Second to none. Second to none. I mean, I know for me, I was able to coach back in New York with Kenny Roy, and I was able to catch some high school vibes back there. I want to say Lincoln High School Gymnasium is similar to that, to those old school games in New York, crowd on top of you, everybody yelling, side bets being placed. And you know what I'm saying? Like when I was growing up, if it was a 7:00 tip off, you weren't in the gym by 6, unless you were OG such and such, you wasn't getting in the gym. Mm-hmm. it just wasn't happening. I mean, the acoustics in the gym was unreal. The crowd's on top of you. It was just ridiculous. And Lincoln was a show. Lincoln was a show. So wherever Lincoln went, it was a caravan following him. Lincoln was so talented back then. I remember a lot of people didn't show up. People showed up, but not a ton. To you would talk to them about the playoff games, going to see. They're like, nah, we'll show up at the finals, but we know they're going to be there. It was kind of like that vibe. Like, damn, Lincoln's that good, in which they were. You know what I'm saying? So again, it was second to none. I would say, out of my personal experience, the next closest was probably the Cave at San Diego High. The next closest, but again, they're not on the same level. I know some of them Cave alumni might not agree with me, but they can keep it real. I mean, I think Marlon Wells can keep it real because he played at Lincoln, against Lincoln. He actually went to Lincoln for a few days before he transferred out. And I think he'll keep it 100 and tell you the best place to play, the hardest place to play was Lincoln back in the 90s.
So when you're playing now, what are you? What's your mindset in terms of playing sports at the next level, whether it's football, wrestling, basketball? Where's your mindset in terms of this can take me out of San Diego, this could take me to college? Kind of where's your thought process when you're out there?
I mean, the funny thing was I just played basketball and baseball for fun. Again, a lot of people, if you really know me, you'll bring up baseball. Now it lets me know, like, damn, you really know me. In all honesty, that was probably my best sport. Football I did naturally. So one thing that disappointed me was, and why I coached, one of the reasons why I coached the way I coach today, is because my junior year, we had a new head coach named at Lincoln for football. We had a phenomenal year that year. We had one of the best defenses in the county until in fact, we were number one in the county until we played Morris. And then, again, we had nothing but stallions, athletes, great guys on that squad. And my senior year, we actually went 0-10. What bothered me was nobody really talked to me about college, including my own household. So for me, I really didn't understand the recruiting process or anything like that. It was never really taught to me. It was different when you lose a legend like Victor Player and his whole staff. It was hard. So I didn't realize until almost towards the end of my senior football season that I had schools interested in me. I didn't even really know. I did have ambitions. I wanted to go to Colorado State because it was out of Southeast. They played against San Diego State 4 times. I would play against San Diego State 4 times in 4 years, 2 of which would be at San Diego in front of my mom and dad. So I was looking at that. And plus I was looking at different Hornets that went to Colorado State, which was really impressive. You know what I'm saying? Different guys, or not just Hornets, I'm sorry, but guys from my community from Southeast. You had Anthony Hill, Paul Turner, PT, PT Speed. That's what he has his own business. But you had some great athletes that went to Colorado State and they showed San Diego love. But I felt that my new coaching staff didn't prepare us in general for that. I think, great men, but I think they might have been in over their head a little bit too much, or they might have, again, just didn't want to inform people. I didn't find out I had letters, like I said, until a few games left in my senior year.
When you say that affects how you coach now, what do you mean by that?
Man, I got to tell my kids the truth. If I get a letter, because as a head coach, you know how it goes down. Most of the time we get a phone call, but after some big tournaments in the AAU, mainly in the AAU offseason, the coaching books has the kids' high school in it. So we'll start getting mail, and it'll be addressed to the high school in care of the coach, but it'll be to the kid. And there's a lot of coaches that hide kids' mail. First port of contact, especially if the kid is younger, a college coach can't call you. So first port of contact is a letter saying, hey, we saw you, we're interested in you. We can only contact you one time via mail. Here's our contact. You can call us all day long. A lot of coaches, they don't hand the mail over. They don't pass it over. So for me, the moment I check the office every day, the moment I see a piece of mail with a kid's name on it, man, I'm going to them saying, here's your mail. And then we talk about it. If they're brand new to it, we talk about it. And I tell them how it works. And, hey, you can call the coach all day long. You can leave a message. They can't return the call, but leave a message saying, hey, coach, try again at 6:30 my time. And they'll figure that out, the mathematics of it, on what time, wherever coach they're on. So that's what I mean by that is, you got to share that information, man. It's not about you no more. Your career is over. It's about this kid. So You hear horror stories here in San Diego too about coaches not sharing mail, not keeping kids in the loop, and it sucks. So that's what I meant. I just share the information as I get it.
So how did the decision, or what went into the decision? Where'd you end up going after high school?
Well, it's funny because I was going to go to Southwestern College. I want to say it was like May, about first week of May, 6 weeks before we graduated. My cousin went to Langston University in Oklahoma. He was a band kid, big time. He was our drum major at Lincoln. He's a year older. He went out there and loved it. Actually, he was 2 years older. He went out there and was loving it. He came back recruiting our campus to try to get more kids to sign up. He was like, hey, man, they're giving away money. And again, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm stuck on going to Southwestern, play 2 years of Southwestern, get to Colorado State type deal. So I did the app. I got accepted. And then the reason why I left had nothing to do with the college at all. I left because of an unfortunate situation here that involved a graduation party, a family member of mine, and some after effects, without going into great detail, of that party, to where my mom immediately made the decision, you're leaving for safety. So never been on a plane in my life. Furthest I ever been was Vegas. And, back then, your parents, you could walk all the way to the gate at the airport. So yep. My grandfather, my grandmother, I had an Army duffel bag my grandfather gave me. I had one suitcase. They walked me all the way to the gate. I looked back down at the skywalk, waved. Next thing you know, a few hours later, I'm landing in Oklahoma, not knowing where the hell I'm at.
So I want to touch on this because I think it's important for our kids in this area, because I think I think a lot of our high school kids out here are so in such a hurry to get out of here that they take for granted how great it is in San Diego. They take for granted beaches and the weather. And what was that like? What was that like for you the first time you were somewhere other than San Diego?
Man, you ever put your feet on your grandma's plastic couch? What did she do to you after you did that?
I know better than to do that. Exactly. I know better.
But if you did,
the first time I caught a shoe, exactly, smacked. A house shoe.
Yeah. So basically, you got smacked and shocked the hell out of you, right? It was the same thing, man. I got off at the airport in Oklahoma City, the airplane. I'm walking out the airport. One thing, the airport was kind of dead. I'm like, okay, this is weird. I walk out to outside, and it's humid, it's hot, hardly any bodies around. I get in the car. They started taking me to, I went, my aunt and uncle picked me up. They were stationed out there in the Navy, which I had no clue. There's some kind of naval base out there. I'm like, okay, Navy, middle of the country. That don't make no sense to me back then. You know what I'm saying? So they picked me up, and it was my dad's sister and her new husband. And we're driving, and I'm like, bro, where's the freeway? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, where's this? Where's that? I seen cars when we did get on the freeway, I seen cars exiting off the fast lane. And you never saw that back then in Dago. I mean, now you see it because of the carpool lane, but you never saw that, and there's hardly any bodies. And then you were in and out the city like this. It was just a complete culture shock. Lifestyle was so slow. People's speech, their verbiage, was night and day. You ask for a soda, what you say, I want to pop. You want to pop? Like little things like that, people will come at you about, but everything out there was slower, way of life, way of thinking. It definitely taught me the term methodical, but very slow, and no beaches. Hurricanes,
so were you homesick?
Or tornadoes. Truthfully, no, not at first. Because I think what helped me was when we were there, the first week was only athletes and freshmen. Right. So, football team, athletes,
so early
freshmen.
bond.
Yeah. So I was, again, it was pretty cool. Met some Cali cats. That was okay. But we were treated different. Being from Cali, I didn't realize it until a few weeks later when it was really broke down to me. They were like, hey, man, we're threats to them out here with their women, their way of life. Everybody watches movies about back home. I mean, you know how many times people ask me, "Hey, man, is Boys in the Hood really like that?" But yeah, it was definitely a culture shock for me. The lifestyle, the culture. I mean, one thing I must say about Langston University, uh, being around that many people of my complexion that wanted to succeed and showed a lot of pride in just being African American, a minority. That was so beautiful, man. It was so beautiful seeing that. Nobody was called the N-word. If you said it, you was getting checked. Like, hold on, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Or sister. You know, it was real. Again, it was just real cultural. And I think Lincoln did prep me for that part because we were the only predominantly Black high school in San Diego back then. So it did prep me for that type of love, which I truly appreciated. But it was just overwhelming because, you know, in San Diego, you drive 3-4 miles east, west, whatever, the culture is changing a lot. You know, you got the Hispanics and all that stuff. And out there on that small campus, it was just, you know, nothing but brothers and sisters. And it was a really good field.
So how was the experience in terms of sports? How, kind of walk me through how that situation played out.
So, I mean, I went out there as a normal student. I was like, I'm done with football. I'm cool. You know, I was a little disappointed. I was a lot disappointed in the fact I wasn't getting mail. So part of me was like, I don't want to play no more. So that first week, like I said, it was just freshmen and returning athletes. So I was playing in what's similar to what we call the arc here at San Diego State. So I was out there hooping, and I didn't realize I was hooping with their basketball team. And, you know, we had some guys that can jump out there. I was like, man, so I'm handling the rock. They're like, man, who's this big cat? Like, I hear people like, who and I and all that. I'm do a couple lobs and everything, hit a couple shots. I was just having fun doing what we do, you know? So when I leave the rec center. I'm walking back to my dorm. I notice there's this cat following me. So, you know, my Southeast senses is up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to bend this corner. He bends the corner. I'm like, okay. I keep mobbing. I'm like, all right. If he gets close enough, I'm going to do what we do. I'm going to turn around and ask no questions. Just give him one. And, you know, again, that's the immature, you know, 17-year-old kid. I was still 17 at the time. So I get into my dorm, and right when I get into my dorm, dude comes in behind me. And I turn around, I'm like, man, what's happening? I square him up. And he's like, whoa, hold on, man, hold on. He was like, no, like, I'm coach such and such. I coach on a football program. You know, I saw you playing basketball, man. You move extremely well. I've never seen a man your size move the way you do and have the stamina like that. He was like, have you ever played football? I was like, nah, never played football. And he was like, you sure? I'm like, I'm positive. Where you from? I'm from Cali. What part? I'm like, San Diego. What school? I went to Lincoln. You know, I gave him a quick little thing. Nothing major. So again, he asked me about football. I was like, nah, man, I'm just a nerd. Like, I'm just here for books. I never played football. So next day we had some kind of like orientation. I come back to the lobby of my dorm. Same dude is sitting there now with another older gentleman. And they both approached me. Older gentleman guy's like a little notebook. And he was like, excuse me, son, are you Lonnie Jones? I'm like, yes, sir. You know, in my head, I like smacked my lips in my head when I saw it. I was like, ugh, right? So I go in and he asked me that question. I told him, yeah. He goes, you never play football, son? I'm like, nope, never played football. And he was like, but you're from San Diego, California. Yes. You went to Lincoln High School. Yes. So is there another Lonnie Jones that was all league, that did this, that did that? And I'm like, damn.
Did his research.
I was like, did his research. I don't know how he did it back then because the internet was barely
Google, right?
Was barely, yeah. The internet was barely cracking at that time. So I guess he must have read in enrollment. He must have went and got my paperwork and saw that I did put down extracurricular activities, and he ended up calling back home. Come to find out, speaking with some cats at the school. So he asked me to come out for the team, and you know, I was like, you know, why? What's the benefit? And he was like, paying your education. I was like, all right. So you know, went out there the next day. I saw the guys. There were some good sized dudes. We had a corner that's from LA that was real. And then one of the receivers, I mean, I forget his name, but he got drafted to Minnesota Vikings, and he had a long career in the league. But did my thing out there, and I'm watching them go up and down. I was like, okay. So I'm still 17, mind you. I'm still 17. I didn't turn 18 for like another week and a half. This is like early August. I'm there. My birthday is August 20th. So I end up beating out the starting center, who was like 22 years old. I went out there, I was just snapping, messing around with one of the quarterbacks. They're like, dude, we love how this kid snaps. And
But you played
I started
center
pulling on
before?
my own, doing certain things. I did a little bit in high school, nothing major. I did my sophomore year and then my junior year for varsity. But I was better at actually a guard. And I really wanted to play defense more because I was violent. I like to hit people. So, they like how I played. I won the spot. And again, this comes back to my coaches now. I actually wasn't eligible. I didn't do the NCAA, what I needed to do to become eligible. And then I also missed the SAT, being eligible by the SAT. I think it was like by 100 points or something like that. So back then, I can't remember if it was a gray shirt or whatever they called it back then, prop something. They were trying to prop, that was they tried, what was it, prop 48?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were talking about prop 48 back then. And then they were talking about gray shirting. And, when the coach really realized how old I was, he was like, I'm not tripping. We got us one. He's still a baby. So, but the offensive line coach, he thought I was too small. Mind you, I'm like 285, 6'2", 285, bench pressing close to 400. And he said I was too small for his line. So that was my first journey of getting out of shape in an unhealthy lifestyle. Was I gained 60 pounds in like 3.5 weeks. It was like an absurd number because he said I was way too small for the line. And he made the manager sit with me and just watch me eat. And it was so unhealthy. I mean, realistically, it's probably around 50. But I remember them telling me like, yeah, you put on this, you're at 340 now. You were 285. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So, that went down. And so.
So what led you to end up coming back? How did you end up back home?
Well, my dad lost his job my junior year in high school. So I used to work at Pick and Save at the Grove, $4.25 an hour to try to help my mom out and my family out. And what made me come home was I got a phone call that my mom lost her job. My dad was still unemployed at the time. He was helping at the little family business my uncle had. He just took over Lemon Grove Hardware. So my dad was helping out there, but it was nowhere near the money he used to make. So, again, two things. One, I wasn't tough enough mentally. I'm not even gonna lie, because that slow lifestyle did start taking effect on me a little bit. And then because there's nothing around our college, nothing. I mean, their idea of going out was going into Guthrie, a town called Guthrie, like 30 some miles away, 30 minutes away, and going to a place called Taco Mayo. And I was hype about Taco Mayo. That was literally what it was called. I was hype. I'm like, oh, back home, taco shop? Bet. It was nothing but Taco Bell. It was a generic Taco Bell. Yeah. It was terrible. So, the lifestyle, the fact that on Sundays the campus was a ghost town. I was all by myself. Nobody was there. Everybody went home to either Oklahoma City or to Tulsa or whatever. The cafeteria was on. It was just bad. Like, that part wasn't good for me. And then when I heard my mom lost her job, I was like, oh, enough said, I'm coming home. So I hopped on a Greyhound, packed up, and left.
So you get back to San Diego. When does the coaching bug first hit you?
It didn't. I was just trying to get a job with the city of San Diego under the water department. And with no experience, everybody would tell you to this day, the easiest way to get in the city of San Diego is get in through park and recreation. And after your year of probation, transfer over. So that was my whole goal. Well, I didn't have enough experience for park and rec either. I applied for Rec Leader 1. Didn't get it. They were like, hey, man, you have no experience working with kids. But, we understand you're over here at Encanto Park. That's where you grew up. Volunteer. Get some volunteer hours. We're going to reopen this position in about 6 to 8 months and reapply. And that's how I got into coaching. So
volunteer is just like rec coaching, that kind of thing?
Exactly what it is. It's you're doing everything the rec leader is doing and the rec aide is doing, but you're getting not $1.
And before this, you had never coached?
No. I mean, if you want to consider coaching, like, coaching my peers or motivating them to do certain things or getting certain spots, that's maybe where I got the bug, maybe where I was learning how to coach was that. And I wasn't realizing it at that time frame. That was happening though. How
did you enjoy it right away? Is it something that you, like, I know for some people, it's like you take to it immediately, or is it something that kind of grew on you? Kind of where were you in terms of your first coaching? Kind of how did it stick to you initially?
At first, I didn't want to do it because the park, when you go park and rec, there's no cuts. It's the first 15 kids is on a team, and then if another 5 sign up, then they'll take 5 from the team and have 2 teams. There's never a cut at park and recreation. So, for me, my first team was it was 12 kids, and I added 2 more. I added my friend's brother. He came and played. He brought his friend, but I had they're more like little brothers to me because I'm 19 now, and these guys, they're 16. I'm doing 16 and under, and I believe it was 16 and under back then. Either the 16 or 15 under, one of the two. And these guys were like more like little brothers to me, and I fell in love with it honestly after the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, man, this is pretty fun watching them develop and play, and the way we used to chop it up with one another. And again, it was just we were so close in age. Hey, little one, you forgot I'm doing a meeting, huh? Come on, I know you want to say hi. You're never camera shy. There you go. Say hi. Wave your hand.
We'll make her famous.
So this is Elena Kate. This is my girlfriend's daughter. She's
doing?
Absolutely wonderful to be around. They asked, how are you doing? He asked, how are you doing?
Good.
You're doing good. Are you going to play basketball? You going to play with your LOL surprise? Okay. All right. Go play with your LOL surprise.
I know all about those.
Shut the door, please. Thank you. So yeah, I fell in love with it when these guys started wanting more. They started showing up to the gym early, and man, it was fun. Saturdays coaching, it was hype. It was fun, and the gym was cool. It was packed. It was just, I fell in love with it probably 3 weeks in, man. It was just real cool.
So that's the point where you kind of maybe felt like it's something you wanted to do. I'm sure you probably didn't, at that point, you're not seeing yourself as a high school coach, but where did it go? Where did the coaching go from there?
Oh, for me, I was like, this is a shoe, and I got the job with the city. That's how I looked at it. I was like, man, we went in. My center director's happy. They got to hire me. So, but I didn't get hired the second time. Still didn't have enough experience. Again, it didn't really get real serious for me about going to the next level until Marshawn Cherry and myself, we had a team called the San Diego Barons, which was basically our Southeast kids from Skyline and Canto area. We put them together, and we didn't know what we were doing. We're young guys, and we just started rolling around the city. We were just beating people, and people are like, man, you guys are good. And again, we're young cats, so I'm not knowing, again, I'm 19 years old now. I'm, about to turn 20 soon. And, I didn't realize what I was doing, who we beat. We knocked off a couple teams and didn't realize it. And then, Big Bro came into play, the mentor, the man, the godfather, the legend. Marlon Wells came into play. And that's when I first met Marlon Wells. And,
coaching
if I didn't
boys,
meet
right?
Marlon.
He's coaching boys, you're coaching boys.
Yeah, we're both coaching boys. So he's with High Five America and Rising Stars. So it was like Rising Stars was very good. And then High Five, he was testing something with them on the side. Because again, it was bigger than basketball back then. And that's how we met. I met Marlon, and he brought us together.
So in the early days of AAU, as far as like you guys are staying in Southern California. Tell me about the kind of how that scene was back then versus kind of how we were talking earlier about what it is now, where it's a lot more concentrated talent, and talk about those days.
So when me and Marshawn when Marshawn and I was coaching, it was the Golden Triangle is what I call it: San Diego, Vegas, LA. And Vegas was, if we got lucky and had enough money to go. But we saw some guys. I remember a team out of LA, 40 stars. They were like us. They were better though. They're, definitely have more urban kids, more hood kids that, can go. I really didn't really see great talent until I joined Rising Stars and I started traveling with them, because although Marshawn and myself might have been in Vegas at what we thought was the best tournament in the world, which was really the Chitlin circuit, these guys are playing in packed gymnasiums, 7-footers, guys like Tyson Chandler in the mix, So it's changed a lot now because, back then it was a little more value on being placed in a tournament. if you finish 1 through 5 or whatnot, or 1 through 10, it was a lot more. It was a lot more pride in it. Now you have everybody posting about every tournament, every which way, and these tournaments, they're just cash cows. There's no value on the trophy they're giving you. I saw a bunch of people posting this weekend. And I was like, man, you guys got to grow up. You know, you're not understand. Let your kids post about that. You know what I'm saying? Let them enjoy that part of it. But you need to still live in reality and stop, bragging about winning Division 26, of my homeboy shootout. It was crazy.
When we talked the last time, you brought up something that I think is real important, and you were saying how in the early days with Marshawn, it got to a point where I think you were saying that Marlon was interested in some of your kids, and I think I want to talk about that because I think it's important that you made the decision that, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but you guys had what we would consider kind of a mom and pop startup AAU program, and you made the decision to let them go off to a more established club, which doesn't seem like it's a big deal. But you don't see that a lot now. People want to hold on, even if they know there's a better opportunity for their kids, they want to keep them with them, which doesn't really help the kid out. So kind of speak to your thought process leading into that.
I'm going to tell you who the kid is. I mean, he's a grown man now. He's special teams coordinator and linebackers coach at San Jose State, Scott White. He was phenomenal. And I only knew him as a basketball player back then. I didn't realize he was that good in football. He was defensive player of the year in the San Diego section in football. He can go on a basketball court, give you 20, and hop on a football field, give you 15 tackles and 3 touchdowns at running back. And that's where Marshawn and I, again, big brother, little brother back then type deal, where we butted heads and we had disagreements. For him, he felt like, we need to keep our guys as our guys. And I get it. I understand that. But for me, I just think I've always been told I'm an old soul when people hear how old I am. And a lot of people think I'm from the South with the way I think, because it's never about me. It's about what's best for them, the other person. And it came into play with Rising Stars, and I told Marshawn, and we had a good talk, and we came to an agreement that we were both going to motivate Scott and his family to move him on to the Rising Stars, because they were at a level that, again, I didn't know. I knew they were great. I didn't know they were winning national tournaments and all that stuff, but I knew they were better than us. I knew they had more connects than we did. That was common sense. So for me, I was like, we got to let him go, and we did. We pushed him to him.
Give me some names of those kids that they had back then, if you can remember.
Oh yeah, I can remember. Marlon's team alone was ridiculous. Let me see. This one wasn't on Marlon's team, but Rico Tucker. He was all CIF guy out of Cathedral. Had the highest vertical leap. I want to say he had a 50-inch vertical at the end of the day in college. He went to Pepperdine and went to University of Minnesota. His dad is the great Terry Tucker at St. Cedar High School. He was also a phenom in football. On Marlon Wells' team, that 14 under Rising Star team that he had the only girl playing boys basketball back then, which was Candace Wiggins, started on that team. Her little brother, who went pro overseas, came off the bench, which was Alan Wiggins. He had Tito and Anthony Palmer, one of the greatest backcourts in San Diego County history. He had a kid named Casey that could shoot lights out. He had another kid that was only 12 years old on that team that was like 6'4" already, which was Big Quentin, played at Horizon, won a couple titles. Can't forget the Laker. He had Jared Dudley. And Jared Dudley came off the bench. We called Jared Teddy. Chubby kid back then, but even back then, his IQ was ridiculous. Marlon's team was loaded. Oh, Vincent Camper. If you're familiar with the Drew League and you watch Drew League, they call what is Vincent's name? Oh my Lord, he's always posting. But again, if whoever watches this video, Google Vincent Camper and check out the Drew League. He is, one of the best players ever to come out of Dago. And his career is storied. He's one of them guys where he should have a 30 for 30.
So from the club, how does the club lead you to your first high school job? Or how do you get to that first high school job? That's Hoover, right? Yeah,
it was Hoover. It was Hoover as an assistant coach. So Rising Stars was owned by Ali Golston. Marlon Wells was second in command. So a lot of people remember EBO with Marlon and Robbie. I was actually with Marlon when EBO was formed because we went on a trip with Southern California All-Stars and we went to Vegas. SCA, they are a storied program. They had Tyson Chandler. I mean, they had so many Josh Childress, Taylor King, Aaron Aflalo, Taj Gibson, the little lefty that played in what was his
Stevenson
name?
with them?
Stevenson was with EBO.
Gotcha.
He was an EBO kid, but the Brandon Jennings was with them. All these different ages over the years. So Ali, myself, and I call him my brother. I've been with him since ninth grade. Muhammad Abukar was the best kid in San Diego. So we had Abukar play on that team. And basically every year, the best kid for sure, and maybe one other would play SCA. So Marlon, myself, and Ali, we traveled to Vegas with SCA. Me and Marlon and I were roommates. And second game, Marlon was like, "Hey, man, I got to take care of something. Let him know I'm not feeling good." I'm like, "All right, cool." So originally, and this is why I love Marlon. He did what's best for the kids, not what's best for Marlon. Basically, he was promised that 14 under team was going to be a SCA team, and the next big team coming up, they're going to look at, sponsor him, give him all the finances to help that team and those kids. And basically, he was being just, he wasn't lied to, but everything wasn't coming true for the kids. So Marlon went and met with Darren Matsubara from EBO, which had the Lopez twins, all those guys. And I got back to my room, my bed and his bed. He wasn't in the room, but my bed and his bed was just Adidas everywhere. I'm talking shoes. I'm talking shirts, jerseys. I'm like, what did I walk into? So, where I grew up at, I'm like, EBO. Oh, okay. That be, EBO. Okay. All right. Over here banging. I'm not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
So Marlon walks into the room and he was like, he has the bellhop cart. And he was like, "I got to go." I'm like, "What you mean you got to go?" He was like, "Hey, man, I joined another program. They're a national team. This is the uniforms already. This is everybody's shoes. Here's a pair for you." I'm like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, we'll talk when you get back home, but again, this is for the guys. Again, I'm out. I got a van. I got to get to Dago to pick up the kids. And then we're going from Dago straight up to Oakland to go play." And I want to say the first game or second game, they lost to LeBron James's team. He coached against LeBron, which was pretty cool. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm gonna turn this light on.
Yep.
But he coached against LeBron, and I thought that was pretty cool, man. I was like, okay, my boy Marvin doing his thing. So that's how that happened. So Ali Ghostin, him and I stayed with Rising Stars. Cause Ali was like, "Look, Lonnie, I'm going for this high school job coming up. I need you with me." So Marlon, at this time, he was the JV boys coach at Dago, and he just took over as the girls coach. So Sade Houston, all them great players he had. Paris Johnson was a freshman. So I was like, okay, he jumped to girls. All right, I'm gonna stay with Ali. I know boys. And Ali did. He got the Hoover job, and then he asked me to come on in and be his first assistant.
And how was that first year? How many years were you there?
I only stayed at Hoover for 2.
And tell me about that situation.
So the first year was great, man. We had, for people that say this, I don't know if you can see it, but that's my, I'll stand up. That's how much I love my kids. This is a tattoo of 2 Hoover players that passed away. That's Mark Hall and Todd Doxey. So that's how much I love my kids, and I still love my kids. It was great, man. When we took over the team, it was rebuilding. They had one player returning that can go, Scooter May, and then they had another guard that had some issues at the house. But we did what we do. We mentored. We loved on him. He came and helped out, and then he ended up moving away. But they were terrible. They were like the laughing stock of basketball. And in one season, we went from the last place team to the CIF finals. Year 1, CIF finals. And we were led by a freshman backcourt, JD Luster and Todd Doxey, who's tatted on my arm, rest in peace. 6'8" Mark Hall, who's also on my arm. He passed away. We had Ryan White, who was 6'7", And then, we had Kenneth May, our other guard. We had some good young guys, Keenan Patterson, Marcus Shannon. We had Martin Smalls, Kamal, and they just bought into what Coach Ali was teaching. The community bought into it. And we shocked the whole county, man. And it was just a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
How much of your current coaching, like kind of your philosophy and the things the way you run your program now, harks back to what you learned in those first couple of years?
Well, Marlon taught me how to keep it real. Marlon taught me how it's about the kids. It's not about yourself. He taught me about definitely, watch who, for lack of a better term, who you're in bed with. You know what I'm saying? Coach Ali, he was the methodical side. He taught me the passion of breaking down a team, how to run a program, the money part of it, how to fundraise, how to get it, the networking, the grade checks, how to, how to just create all this stuff for the kids. And again, all the behind the scenes stuff, man. Ali did a tremendous job of that. And then the last person I got to give credit to, because I left Hoover after year 2, was Kenny Roy at San Diego High. Him and I were on Ali's original staff at Hoover together. Year 2, I became the JV head coach, replaced him at Hoover as a JV head coach. He took over Hoover girls varsity. And then year 3, I actually got hired at San Diego High before he did. But the coach, Coach Chill, ended up leaving. Curtis McGlown was a military cat background, so he ended up leaving to San Antonio. And then Kenny Roy got the job there as the head coach, boys. And then I stayed at Dago. So Kenny taught me freedom and humble. Never be ashamed to say what you don't know. And I love that man to this day for this, because a lot of the offense we ran, a lot of the defenses we ran, the alley-oop plays, he let me do it. College coaches come in, he had me run the workouts. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. That's what he was great at. He was a salesman, and he just let his coaches do them. So with all those 3 of those men put together, it definitely molded me for what I'm doing now.